Right, and share content. Okay, let's make a start then. So, should be working. Here we go. Right, why don't we start a new page? Could you put today's date on, please? Page. So it is the 16th. Oh, I'm in the wrong colour. Apologies. Come on then, let's make a start. So, time retrieval, based on what we're going to be doing. I don't know the last time we mentioned this, but you'll see if you know what it looks like. So, question 1. What will this look like if I was to draw it? You can draw it or you can describe it. Here it is, x squared. So try this on your own, please. X squared plus y squared equals 9. Could you either try and draw it or describe what it is? I think we'll just do one for now, because we don't know what that one is. If I do any more, you still won't know. So what will that look like? If you have no idea, that's fine. Just put down what you think. Either you could draw it or describe it. Just describing it is fine. Be quicker than drawing it, but if you don't know how to describe it, you can try and draw it. If you honestly don't know, then will it be in your book? I don't know. Have a little flick back. It might be. I don't think we've described or drawn that for a couple of months. Not with me. You might have done in your own revision. You might have come across it last week. I'm only going to give you another 30 seconds. I'm getting a few blank looks. I'm not sure any of you can remember this. I can see a few promising starts to the drawing, at least starts there. It will be a 2-mark question to either describe it or to draw it, probably. So let's. I'm going to give you 3 ticks for it. I'm going to give you 1 for the shape that it is, 1 for, and then a couple of things about how big the shape is. Anyone think that they know? There's a lot of blank primary. It's a circle. It's a circle. So if you've drawn a circle, you've written the word circle. Let me give you 1 tick for circle, and let me quickly draw axes, circle. Right, thank you, Harry. Aidan, do you know where I should draw the circle? Towards the end of what? For me to draw a circle, imagine you were drawing it. I need to put my compass point in and then draw a circle. Where do I put my compass point? Where is the centre of the circle? Yeah, so the centre of the circle, if you draw a circle which has got a centre 0, 0, centre will be at the origin or 0, 0, you're going to get a mark drawing a circle with centre 0, 0, 0. So I'm going to do my best to draw it. I'm going to draw the circle first. It's easier on the board to draw the circle best I can, and then put the numbers on. Then put the numbers on around the circle rather than trying to make the circle fit the shape, fit the drawing. So 1 mark for that. If it said to draw that, you would get a mark for drawing any circle with the centre 0, 0. Even if it was freehand, it looked like a circle, but please don't do it freehand. Draw on your protractor or use a compass, make it like a circle. How big is this? How big would the circle be if you got 4 marks? Starting on. How do you know the radius is 3? Yes, it is. Who agrees with Charlene, now she's said it, that actually the radius is 3? So when I draw that, if it's got a radius of 3, so the radius, oh dear, apologies. The radius is the square root of that number there, whatever that is, which in this case is 3. That means when I'm drawing it, I'm going from 0 to 3 going along and 0 to 3 going up. What will the number down there be, Saviana? Down there. Go on. Thank you, Chuck. Go on, say it a bit louder. All right. Saviana, what about there? Okay. So it will be going 3 squares along, up, left and right, but obviously it's negative on the graph. Right, okay. Let me draw you another one. I'm going to draw you one this time. Let's work it back. If I draw it to you, I couldn't obviously draw it, have it up there because you knew it was going to be a circle. I'm going to draw you one. Could you tell me the equation for the second one? I'm going to draw it. Right, so question 2. Hopefully you'll find this a little bit easier. Question 2. So here goes my circle. I'm going to draw the circle first and it just makes things a little bit easier for me. There we go. All right, and then put the axes on. So what is the equation of this circle, please? What's the equation of that circle for two marks? What's the equation of that circle? What's the equation of that circle? Write it down. Let's let everyone have a go. I'm hoping I can give you both marks. I'm hoping. What's the equation of the circle? Clue is it's going to be like question 1, but slightly changed because the circle, even though I haven't drawn it to scale perfectly, the circle should be bigger than the first one. But mine look the same size circle, but it's supposed to be bigger because of the numbers have changed. Javi, what have you? Can you give me the first? Give me what you've written on the left-hand side.
X squared.
Yeah.
Plus y squared.
Let me give you a mark for that. X squared plus y squared. If you've got that, give yourself a tick. Tressa, what else do I? Have you done a bit more of this? What else do I need to write? What else do I need to write? Right. If you've got equals, if you've got the 25 right, give yourself a second tick. Now it's possible that might only be worth 1, but it could be worth 2. Certainly drawing it is normally worth 2 marks in an exam. Did you remember that well or not really? You did, I think. Do you remember ever doing that briefly? I think we might have done that for 20 minutes in a lockdown lesson at some point.
No, we did it a couple of weeks.
But I mean, the first time. Maybe. But we did, yeah. I'm 2 weeks ago.
Like, it was a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. Right, well, so what I want to try and work towards is, rather than going over some basic topics, I want to wait until I've read your, look through all your papers, and then we can start to look at topics that you all found difficult, or most of you found difficult. This one is based on question 22 in the first paper, which I think you can see why it's question 22. So let me give you, we'll just spend 32 minutes doing this topic. So here's the topic for today, finding the equation, you can write this please, of a tangent to a circle. And I'll talk you through this one. Okay, so we're going to draw a circle, please. And we're going to mark on our axes. The circle would always go through 0, 0. Just draw that. A freehand circle is fine. We're not going to measure it. Freehand, don't worry about digging out your protractor if you don't have it to hand, please. Okay, so we've got a circle. Just to make it easy for me to give some of the numbers, the circle is going to be x squared plus y squared equals 5. And the question is going to be, there's a point P, I'm going to mark on point P a pit. Point P is 1, 2. Here's another quick question, Abby. I've drawn point P on the circle. Have I done that correctly? Is it on the circle? Is the point 1,2 on the circle? I'm saying it is. Have I got that right? So can you have a think? Talk to the person next to you. Is 1,2 on the circle? Say the question said, for part A, explain how we know that 1,2 or point P is on the circle. How would you explain 1,2 is on the circle? I know I've drawn it on, but let's just say the question said, is 1,2 on the circle? Yes or no? I'm saying yes, it is, but why? So talk to the person next to you for 30 seconds. How do we know it is on the circle? I'm saying it is. Am I right? How do I know 1,2 must be on the circle and not just above it and not inside it? Why is it on it? Why is it on it? You know, 15 seconds. Is it on the? Why is it on the circle? I'm saying it is. Why is it on the circle? Liv and Samuel, either of you. Why do you agree it's on the circle? Because 1 squared plus 2 squared is 5. Explain that a bit more. Where did the 1 and the 2 come from? So what does that 1 represent, Samuel? The x coordinate. So x is 1, y is 2. We just quickly checked it, as you said, 1 squared plus 2 squared. If it does equal 5, it's on the line. If it was bigger than 5, it would be above the circle or outside it, and if it was smaller than 5, it would be inside the circle. So it is actually on the circle. So you will be told some coordinates on the circle, but just while we mention it, that would be a slightly lower level question. So you could be asked that. Right, and then what you would be asked to do. Hello, is the exam just finished, or are you? Yeah. Okay. So what you'd be asked to do, you would have as the question mentions, tangent. Tell the person next to you what is a tangent in maths. What is a tangent? What is a tangent? Emmanuel, what is a tangent? A line that touches one part of the circle. That is beautifully explained. I'm going to draw it through point P. Don't worry if you don't draw it precisely. Mine isn't very good, actually. Let's try that again. Could you do your best to draw a tangent through point P? Don't worry if it's not perfect. Mine isn't either. And the question would be, here's the question. Find the equation. Find the equation of the tangent. That is what this question is asking you to do. The tangent, which for me is a green line. So can you just draw on a tangent? If you want to do it in a colour, please do. The question is, what is the equation of that tangent? What is the equation of that tangent? That is the first thing. And we're going to break it down into about 5 little steps. Each step's worth a mark. The first two steps are what I'm hoping most of you could always have a go at. First 2 steps. Right, so step 1, I could do with a bit more space, so I might have to just move a few things around. All right. So first thing we're going to do is same colour or different colour. We're going to draw in the radius from the centre to point P. So step number 1, if I just try and put some little bullet points here and try and do them where you can read them. Step 1, I'm going to do it up there so I can use the board, all of the board. It's going to be to draw the radius, and it won't always be drawn on. The important thing is we're going to try and we know some things about that radius because we know where it starts and we know where it finishes. It goes from 0, 0 to 1,2. We want to find the gradient or the slope of that radius. So with 1 mark, if you can find the gradient of the radius, find gradient of the radius. Right, now, I think some of you will be able to do that, especially when we remember that that point there is 0, 0. And that point there is 1,2. If you go from 0, 0 to 1,2, have a think. So my question to you is, how do we find the gradient of a line? What do you need to know to find the gradient of that line? Even though we've drawn it freehand, or I've drawn it freehand, it's not perfect to scale. Could you work out the gradient? So the first question is, how do we find the gradient of any straight line? What do we need to know to find the gradient? You might remember that. I'm sure there's been at least one question on gradient in one of the papers, so you might remember at least trying to do it. Zoe, can you remember how to find the gradient of a straight line? What do we need? When you, yes, what do you mean by y next? Y coordinate? Because we've got that, we've got the y coordinate and x coordinate and naught, naught. Okay, good. And what drawing do we not, what do we normally draw on to the straight line? Right, so I'm gonna, I'm running out of space, but I'll do my best to draw a quite a nice triangle. What sort of triangle, Zoe? What type? Very good. Please, when you draw a small right-angled triangle on your line, give me an answer. What do I need about my triangle? What do I need to know, Abigail, about my triangle to find the gradient? I know you've only just walked in, but what? Trying to find the gradient of the radius. I'm going to mark on the radius with an R, so you know what I mean. I want to try and find the gradient of that. How do I do it? What would the numbers be? I'm starting at 0, 0. I'm going across to 1, 2. So how far am I going across? How far am I going up? Cross 1. Put a 1 there, please. I'm sorry, my writing is quite small. I'm going up without 2. Lovely. Zoe, I think that's what you were about to say, but I jumped across. Okay. So I've got a right angle triangle. I've got width 1, height 2. What is the gradient, Bradley? Can you remember how to do it? How do I find the gradient? Go on then. So the change in y is 2, going up 2, and the change in x is 1. So how do I write that? It's just 2, yeah. Or we could write down gradient, I'm going to do GRD for short, is 2 divided by 1, which as you say is 2. If you get a gradient of 2 over 1, Bradley was doing the working out in his head, or an answer of 2, you've got a mark. 1 mark if you can get the gradient of the radius. You should always be able to do that. As long as you know where it starts, 0, 0, where it finishes, you can draw a little right angle triangle and you can have a go at doing the gradient of the radius. Do you think, if you remembered how to do that, you could actually do it? If you'd revised it a week or 2 before, you could actually have a good go at drawing a radius and finding the gradient. 1 mark, probably out of 4 or 5. That's the first mark. Now we're going to try and find the gradient of the green line. What is the link in the gradient of the black radius? And then at the end of my radius, I have a tangent. What's the link between radius and tangent? What's the link? What's the link? Talk to the person next to you. Describe something special about those lines. What have they got in common? What have these 2 lines got in common? Radius, tangent, always. There's a circle theorem that says this. A radius for tangent always means at. You've learned your circle theorem, you might know it from circle theorem as well as looking at it, thinking, I know what that looks like. Vivian, can you remember the link? Talking please, what's the link between radius and tangent? Always mean at, what does it look like? That angle there. You can get them in triangles, yeah. A right angle, good. So if you haven't already drawn it on, let's draw on a right angle. The one of, I don't know whether you needed it in the PPE. Did you need to write down a reason, tangent and radius meet at a right angle? It's one of the most common reasons that you need. No, you didn't need it this time. You might need it in the summer. You did actually need it in this question, though. You needed to know it, even if you weren't trying to do it. Right, so if we know the gradient of that line is 2, and it's right angled or perpendicular to the tangent, what's the gradient of the tangent? So can you change from a 2? What do we do if we know one line's got a gradient of 2? How do we change that? How do we amend our 2 to give us the gradient of the tangent? We've got the radius of 2. What's the tangent? Talk to the person next to you. How do we find the gradient? They're right angles. I know one. What's the other one? I've worked out 1 for 1 mark. You can change it. You get a second mark finding the gradient of your tangent. So step number two. Step two is gradient of tangent is. Okay. Ines, can you give me any help with changing from a gradient to that negative reciprocal? I can't give you a mark for that, but that's working out. If I could, I would. It is the negative reciprocal. Yes, it is. So if reciprocal is how you would say it, reciprocal. So if I start with a gradient of 2 for my radius, what's the negative reciprocal of 2? Ask the person next to you, what's the negative reciprocal of 2? For one mark. You write this down, you've got your second mark. The negative reciprocal of 2. Clue, word negative means something, word reciprocal means something. Do them both and you've got a mark. Right, Lenny, any ideas? Minus, I'm going to give you a mark for minus. What's the reciprocal of 2 though? Reciprocal means. So what's the reciprocal of 2? 1 over whatever number you start with. If I've got 7, reciprocal of 7 is 1 over 7. Reciprocal of 10 is 1 over 10. Reciprocal of 3 1 over 3. Yeah. What's the reciprocal of 2? Yeah, exactly. Well done, Lenny. I knew you. So 1 mark. If you've got the negative reciprocal, you've done it in your head, and you've got a gradient of -0.5 or -0.5, one or other, -0.5. That's 2 marks. They're the 2 marks that I hope you'd always be going for. Trying to get the gradient of what line do we get first of all? The gradient of which line? And then the gradient of the. There's a link between them. Once you know one, hopefully you change the sign to be a negative, put it as a fraction. You've got 2 ticks. Right. Third mark. Third point. Now we've got to try and find, we know the gradient of the green line. So the gradient of the green line, let's start to work. Let's begin. I'm trying to find the equation of the tangent. Finn, can you tell me, every straight line has got the same sort of a formula. Can you tell me the formula, a general rule, a general formula for every straight line? With Abigail's help. Good stuff. Something X. What goes there? Sorry, did you say that? I didn't hear you. Sorry. Plus. We want to get y equals mx plus c. What do m and c stand for? Quickly tell the person next to you. What do m and c stand for? Oh, Demi, do you want to join with Tressa and please? Aidan, what does m stand for? The gradient. So if you've forgotten this, m is the gradient, and Rosie, what's c? Y int. I'm going to put just y int. I'm out of space, so I'll put inter. So I can just squeeze it in. So you only write this down, please. Right. So what is the gradient of my green tangent then? Going that way. Going that way. What is the gradient of my green tangent again, please, Harry? -0.5. How do I know it's -0.5? It is. Yeah. That one's 2. That's a negative reciprocal. So we can get half of this equation. Half of the equation is y equals minus a half x. Where does it cross the y-axis? What's c? Anyone know? Can you tell from the drawing? Could you tell? I don't think so. So we're going to have to write down y equals minus half x plus c. We don't know what c is. Now, here, this is maybe the hardest bit of the question. Once you've done all that, you know the gradient of the radius and the tangent, and you know it's y equals minus half x plus c. How can we get c? How can we find that missing number? Have a think. Make you think hard. I'll talk to the person next to you. Any ideas of finding the missing number, which might not be a nice one? It's going to be more than 2. But will it be 2.5 or 3? I don't know. It's more than 2. I know that. I don't know what it is. Any ideas? Any ideas? Chuck, you got any ideas? Say again, the 5 into y. You're on the right track. I can give you half marks for that. Why were you saying the 5? You're 1. Yes. You're on the right track. It's not 5 though. Yes. You can't have a go. Why are you saying 1 and 2? And what's the important point about 1 and 2? It's on the tangent. If this, just a reminder, this equation that we're about to work out is for this line, I'll do it in green, y equals minus half x. Sorry, I'm writing a small plus c. That every single coordinate on that line fits with the rule, all of them, every single point. However, I only am certain about one point on that line. The only point I'm certain about is that one. The only point I'm certain about is on that line, which means it must fit the rule. X is 1 and y is 2. So I need to use any coordinate on that line that I know about, and I only know one, so it does make it straightforward. Only got one to pick. So for your next little point, you've got to substitute in. So point 4 is going to be to substitute P, which is 1, 2. So I want to use X is 1 when Y is 2. Y is 2 when X is 1, whichever way you want to think about it. I need a bit more space. Let me just scroll up so you can still see that. It's a long question. I'm trying to talk you through it as we go, and then hopefully there'll be time to do one more on your own with a bit of help, maybe 2. Okay, let's go down a little bit. So we want to substitute in Y is 2, X is 1. You don't know what C is. If you've got that, that'll be your next thing. For substituting in your 1 and your 2, even if that's as much as you can do. So we've probably got 3 ticks so far. Maybe 4 is out of 5, maybe 3 is out of 4. Right, could you find what C has to be? I've got a 2 on the left, and on the right, I've got minus a half times 1 plus C. What must C be to make it be equal? Don't say it's equal, so there's only one answer to make it equal. With the help of the person next to you, can you try and work out what C's got to be? It is not a whole number. It's not a whole number. It's a decimal number. Fraction. Not a whole number. Not a whole number. Can you do it? You weren't allowed a calculator. You weren't allowed a calculator for this. You sometimes you would. On the whole, you wouldn't be that calculator. Right, Max and Isabel, do you think you know what the answer is? Not sure? Do you want to have a go? What should we do now anyway? What is it? Seems like 0.5. What's that? What's minus half times 1, Max? Minus 0.5. Oh wait, so plus. So it might help. It might help. Stop talking now. It might help to work that out first and write that down. Now, if you didn't know what to do, now have another think. If 2 equals minus 0.5 plus C, what must C be? Give you another 10 seconds. I will ask you, Max, but you don't have a chance, but you might have got a blank, and now you can do it. Go on, Max. Is it 2.5? It is 2.5, Max. So, final answer. For full marks, Y equals. Right, so what's the gradient of your green tangent? Minus a half. So, and what's the y-intercept in this? Right, that would have got you full marks, which probably would be 4 or 5. Depends, probably 4 I'd go for, but it would be one of those nasty last 3 in the paper. That's hard. However, do you think you could get the gradient of a radius? If you remembered what you have to do that, could you do that? Yep. Could you then get the tangent? Now, then it's Oh, then now it's changed into a gradient of a line. You know the gradient of it, or at least you've had a go at the gradient, and you need to know one coordinate on that anywhere on that line to substitute in to get C. Because you don't know what C is unless it told you, unless it said your line cuts the axis at 2.5, then you know that and you can write it down. Normally you don't know that. Go on. It had more. Yeah, it had more. But I think before we make it any more, before we make it any harder than that, we need to be able to do some of these. Before we make it harder. Yeah, you are right. It is a bit harder. Right. What I'm going to do is we're going to do one more, and I'm going to draw another one up, make it look very similar to that, but I'm going to change the numbers ever so slightly. So if you have that written down, I'm hoping you can work it through and get at least 2 marks, maybe some more, but we'll see. 2 would be great. So practice. Could you please draw a circle and an axis? Quick, let's quieten down. Thank you. And a tangent. Right, draw it, please. Can we stop talking? Thank you, Zoe. Okay, so here's the question. Same question as before. Find the, just do a sketch. I'm going to recommend that you do like I do. Draw a circle first, then draw the axis. So the circle's in the middle of the axis, then draw the tangent, and then we put all the numbers when our drawing looks reasonable. So, drawing then. Here's the question, as the same as before. Find the equation of the tangent, which I am drawing in green. Sorry, 2 now. 4, I'm going to give you 4 marks for that. 4 marks. So I'm going to tell you, here's the equation of the circle. Circle is x squared plus y squared, equals 10. X squared plus y squared equals 10. Sorry about my y squared. And point P is 1,3. Hopefully you'll agree point P is on the circle. 1,3. Just check I've got it right. You don't need to know that. Don't need to know that because you only need to know when you're drawing your triangle, the width and the height of the triangle, the 10 doesn't come into it anywhere. Because the square root of 10 is a nasty number, but it doesn't matter that it is a nasty number. Right, so let's split it up. What you need to know. Gradient of the radius. And you get the gradient of the radius. Secondly, could you get the gradient of the tangent? Try and scaffold it for you so you know what to do. Thirdly, could we start the equation? And fourthly, can we do the substitution? And that should help you get the answer. Come on then, let's see if you can do any of that. 1 mark you can get the gradient of the radius. Come on. I'm hoping in 2 minutes you can go over the gradient of the radius and you might get 1 mark. Should be good. I think any marks on question 22 would be good. Any marks at all. You can get 2 done brilliantly. 3 you've done fantastically. 4 you should be doing much better. I know, it's that good, honestly. And I'm not joking as well. Right, Debbie, do you know how to start? If you are struggling to start at all, draw yourself a radius. Draw on the radius. And then if you're struggling, you need the width and the height of your radius. You need to know the width and the height. Don't forget, circle starts at 0. 1 mark, you can get the gradient of that radius. I'm going to give you them a minute and then we'll do the gradient of the radius. 1 mark for that. Good, got a mark there. Well done. Which should we doing? For the gradient of the radius? Down to our last 6 minutes. If you are struggling, the radius, you go along 1 and up 3. There's your radius. Along 1, up 3. For your first mark, I'm hoping, well, let me give you another 30 seconds in case you didn't spot it was 1 and 3. You go along from 0 to 1, up from 0 to 3. So the gradient and the radius. Have you done it?
Yeah.
Gradient and radius, 1 mark for either 3 over 1, or if you want to work it out as 3. Who's got an answer of 3 for your first mark? Good. So you've done your radius. Now I'm going to use my amazing visual aid. Come on, great expense this one. So there's your radius, there's your tangent, sponsored by the geography department. Right, so here's the radius, here's the tangent. What's the gradient of the tangent then? That's 3. So what's that? Remember what Innes said about what it's called? There's the radius, there's the gradient. Think hard. What did Innes describe it as? How do you get from this gradient to one that's at one's perpendicular or 90 degrees? Works for any radius and any tangent. Any 2 lines that are perpendicular happen to be called radius and tangent. Be 2 perpendicular lines across. They still work like this. Remember what Innes said? Negative reciprocal. So let me give you another 20 seconds. What is the negative reciprocal of 3? Lenny, I'm going to come to you, I think. But what's the negative reciprocal of 3? Negative reciprocal of 3. Minus is the negative bit, and the reciprocal bit? Yes, good. Oops, 3 ticks. So, second tick for minus 1/3. You've got minus 1/3, you've got half marks, you've got 2 out of 4. Well done. What do you do next? What's the next step? You know something about your green line. You know the gradient of your green line. You know the gradient of your green line. What's the equation? Y equals the green line. You know something about that gradient, about the line. You know the gradient. You know y equals what? What do you know? What don't you know? So Max, if you've got, you know it's y equals. Every straight line is a y equals line. Every diagonal line. Mx plus c. What does m stand for? Can you remember? In every straight line. Every straight line, we can write it like this: y equals mx plus c, and the m part is always gradient. How have you worked out the gradient of the green line, Max? What's the gradient of the tangent?
Tangent is like 90 degrees.
So the gradient, did you get 3 for the gradient of the radius?
Yeah.
So the tangent radius is minus 1/3 because the reciprocal is 1/3. These 2 gradients, when you multiply them together, you always get -1. This one times this one gives us -1. Or you say, well, if this one's 3, I do 1/3 but a minus sign. Do that. So we can write this minus 1/3x, but I've got this plus c at the end, but don't know what it is. That's the hard bit, trying to find the plus c. You need one coordinate on the line to help you. Let's see if you can do the next bit. If you finished it, which some of you I think have, I haven't got time to draw you one, but I could. Sometimes the question might say, it might just be a no drawing, and it might say x squared plus y squared equals 20, say, and point P is Have I done that right? Sorry, no. Point P, I'm going to do 1,4. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to make it harder. I'm going to do 2,3. And that's going to be 13. Tangent goes through P. So, question 2 is no drawing. You can draw it yourself. You've got a circle, a tangent, point P. There's your coordinate. There's your equation. Could you do that? Without drawing. I'm going to suggest that you do a drawing. I know I've only got 2 minutes, but if you're quick and you finished, you might be able to get 2 marks. You might get the radius quickly, and then the tangent. You've got 2 marks in 2 minutes. Right. Hopefully you've done this. Hopefully you've done y equals. Finish off this one. Y equals 3. 3 equals minus a third x plus. Minus a third times 1 plus c. I'm going to get this. Stop talking, please. I'm going to get 3 equals minus a third, plus c. I've got c equals 3 1/3. If you get c is 3 1/3, so your final answer should be, let me move this out of the way. Final answer should be y equals minus a third x plus 3 1/3. Give you 4 out of 4. That one up there, if you've started it, your circle with your radius in it is going to go along 2 up 3. So for 1 mark, your gradient is 3/2 or 1.5 up 3 across 2. What's the negative reciprocal of 1.5 or 3/2? The negative bit's easy, isn't it? What's the reciprocal of 3/2? I think. So what's the negative reciprocal of 3/2? Minus. All right, you could have 1/1.5, give you that, or have we go? Yeah, you split it upside down, 2/3. Either of those, you've got 2. Well done, Zoe. Well done, Joe. You've got 2 marks in under a minute. Well done. Let's back up. Off we go. See you tomorrow, period 1, after your science exam. Good luck with it. What is it tomorrow, is it? So I've got one chance. One chance. You know I was going to say that. Ça va?
Oui, ça va. Et toi?
Ça va bien, merci.